Alright, what is up, everybody? This is Generation Z. I'm your host, Russell. What's going on? This is the show where we talk about technology and all that good stuff. I just shot a motion sensor with a rubber band, and it apparently worked because it's not going off anymore, so hooray! There's this thing in here that keeps beeping, and it's driving me nuts, and sort of pseudo-passively aggressively I shot the stupid thing with a rubber band, and it has stopped beeping, so I guess it worked. What do you know? It's like every time it goes off, it goes "dee-dee-dee," and it's so dang annoying, so I just shot it with a rubber band in the hopes that it would stop it, and it did. So my rubber band prowess pays off for once. But here's a funny story that just popped up here. Those of you who eat Hot Pockets might want to watch out, because Hot Pockets are being recalled over disease and unsound animal contents. Wow. And you think I'm kidding? No, I'm not. I'm deadly serious right now. Hot Pockets are being recalled over disease and unsound animal contents. Let me zoom this thing in so I can read it. Alright, scrolling down. Yeah. Okay, Detroit, according to the AP. There is one recall, or rather this is one recall, you definitely want to pay attention to. Nestle is voluntarily recalling an unspecified number of Philly steak and croissant crust Philly steak and cheese Hot Pockets. That sounds gross. Because they could contain meat that is unfit for human consumption, according to the USDA. Nearly 9 million pounds of beef products were recalled last week by Rancho Feeding Corp. After regulators said it processed diseased and unsound animals without a full inspection. Ooh. Nestle said a small quantity of meat from Rancho was used at a California production facility that makes Hot Pockets. The recall is limited to several batches of the 2 Hot Pocket flavors, which were distributed nationwide. So they're not on your side this time. No illnesses have been reported yet, but customers who purchased the recalled products should discard any unused portions and visit the place of purchase for a full refund. So if you bought, let me see which one it is again, Philly steak and croissant crust Philly steak and cheese Hot Pockets, they could contain meat that is unfit for consumption according to the USDA. So that Philly steak and cheese Hot Pocket you bought, why did you buy that, for one? But if you did, take it back to the store and get your money back and buy something much better for you, because apparently that stuff will kill you. And that's what's going on right now in the news. That's your international news for today. Unsound animal contents are in Hot Pockets. So there you go. Now let's see what we got here in the weather. It's 66.9 degrees. It is a beautiful day out there, I gotta say. I walked out there, I put my jacket on just out of habit, right? Because I always have my jacket on, because that's how I roll. And I walked outside and I was just like, man, I don't need this. So I threw it away. Now I need it back because it's kind of chilly in here, but and it had my wallet in it, so I kind of do need my jacket now. I should have thrown it, dadgummit. No, but really, it is kind of, it's actually a really nice day. There's a chance that it'll rain, though. So if you're afraid of rain, don't go out today. It's a chance of thunderstorms, actually, 40% chance of precipitation, 67 degrees is the high, 52 is the low. So we are basically at the high for today. The high is 66.9. No, the current temperature is 66.9 and the high is 67. So we are just at the high temperature for today, which means it can really only go down from here. But enjoy it while you can, because I don't think this is going to last any time at all. In fact, the forecast is indicating that too. The high for tomorrow is 72, though, although there is a chance of thunderstorms, 50% chance of thunderstorms. No, I'm sorry, 20% chance. They all look the same from here. And tomorrow, or rather Friday, 58 degrees is the high, 31 is the low. Chance of rain, 20% chance of precipitation. And for our Saturday, the weekend, 61 is the high, 34 is the low, partly cloudy. Sunday, 54 is the high, 31 is the low, partly cloudy, 10% chance of precipitation. So, in other words, our week is looking pretty good. Aside from the whole rain thing, the temperatures are actually really nice this week, which is odd considering it was snowing last week. I mean, think about that. First you got all the rain and all that, and then you got all the snow and all that, and then now it's just a nice day out. Like, I could walk out in my t-shirt right now and be perfectly fine. What's the deal with this weather? I mean, first it's cold and I don't know what. How's the traffic doing? Let's just see. Well, it looks pretty clear, actually. Yep, pretty clear. 153 north is good. There's some sort of something going on 27, though. Is it 20? No, 24, I'm sorry. On 24 southbound. Don't know what the deal with that is, but it's apparently blocked up there. Probably construction or something. But, you know, overall, the highways are looking pretty good. 75 south is looking good. Of course, Atlanta traffic is awful as always, but you don't need to worry about that. And that's about it. Traffic is good today. Today is a good day in terms of weather, in terms of traffic, in terms of forecast. It's all good. But the news, the worst news that we have today is Hot Pockets being recalled. Oh, also Kiev is in a state of disaster, essentially. There are riots in Kiev, in Ukraine, of course, and, well, that's just how it is. It's, they're protesting that they didn't join the EU and that their government is leaning towards Russia and all that sort of thing. It's a thing that's too complicated to get into for today, but maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. But in the meantime, the BioShock developer Irrational Games announces it's winding down, according to Ars Technica. Yeah, Irrational Games, guys who made BioShock, they're shutting down, actually. In a surprise announcement on the Irrational Games website today, Irrational co-founder and creative director Ken Levine announced that the development house behind BioShock Infinite will be winding down, as Levine moves on to start a smaller, more entrepreneurial endeavor at Take-Two, which is the owner of Irrational. 17 years is a long time to do any job, even the best one, Levine wrote. And working with the incredible team at Irrational Games is certainly the best job I have ever had. While I'm deeply proud of what we've accomplished together, my passion has turned to making a different kind of game than we've done before. To meet the challenge ahead, I need to refocus my energy on a smaller team with a flatter structure and more direct relationship with gamers, he continued. In many ways, it will be a return to how we started, a small team making games for the core gaming audience. Levine's new endeavor will focus on a narrative-driven game for the core gamer that are highly replayable. According to the announcement, it will be exclusively focused on games that are delivered digitally. More details will be announced at a later date. All but 15 of Irrational's employees will be let go as part of the move, Levine wrote, though they will have a period of time to put together portfolios and apply for other opportunities within Take-Two or find work at other companies. There's no great way to lay people off, and our first concern is to make sure that the people who are leaving have as much support as we can give them during this transition, Levine wrote. So he's given them a chance, at least. It's not like where he's just, firing everybody willy-nilly. He's firing them, sort of, but not on bad terms. He's giving them time to put together portfolios and all that good stuff to find other jobs. Boston-based Irrational formed in 1997 from the remnants of Looking Glass Studios, which worked on well-remembered PC hits including Thief and System Shock. In 2006, the company was purchased by Take-Two, where it developed both the original BioShock and BioShock Infinite, but not BioShock 2, which is why BioShock 2 wasn't as good, and was briefly known as 2K Boston. Irrational's dissolution is a bit of a shock, given the critical and commercial success the studio received for BioShock Infinite just under a year ago, and the pending release of the game's second bit of Burial at Sea, the DLC, for next month. The series, which has drawn a reported $500 million in revenue since launching in 2007, will remain under the control of 2K, Levine wrote, so that his new company can focus on building its own stories. If we're lucky, we'll build something half as memorable as BioShock, he wrote. Very odd, though, that the team would break up like that, just sort of out of nowhere. I wonder if there's an internal conflict going on or something. Very strange. But, yeah, BioShock Infinite and the first BioShock were actually very good games. I think I liked the first BioShock more than I liked Infinite, but it's a tough one. because I love the atmosphere of the original BioShock. It was so different. And BioShock Infinite was very different too, but in a different sort of way it was different. It didn't have the same... I wasn't as engaged with it as I was with the first one. Maybe because I couldn't relate with the setting as well, or something. I thought it was good, though. I did like it. I'm not saying it was a bad game, in my opinion. I just liked it. But I didn't think it was it wasn't my favorite, but it was good. You know, it's like Star Trek The Next Generation is my favorite, but it's not to say it's, like, better than than Voyager or better than Deep Space Nine or anything like that. It's just my favorite, you know. Yeah. Now, this is an interesting new technology that's coming out. It's actually not a new technology. It's a different idea of a sort of new technology. What am I talking about? Well, Google Glass, you might remember, we've talked about it before. It's those glasses you wear, and it sort of doubles as a heads-up display, and it has a camera on it, and it's been the subject of quite a lot of controversy recently, especially when the guy was detained by Homeland Security for allegedly taking photos in a theater, and it turned out he did not. It was proven. But then there was... Sorry, my pocket's all bunched up and I'm trying to fix it. It's driving me nuts. There we go. Now, the Google Glass is one of those things where it has good sides and downsides, and it's like, I don't know. But the main problem with Google Glass is that it looks stupid. There, I said it. That is the worst part of Google Glass. It looks idiotic. Sorry, it just does. It looks stupid. Not to say the technology's bad, but it looks really dumb. And they're trying to make it hip, you know, Google is. They're like, look, it's Google Glass, it's cool, it's rad, it's Zap-O-Matic, or whatever they're saying these days. And it's like, no, it's not. It looks dumb. Make it look cool, and I'll be more interested. It's also very expensive, by the way. But there's a competitor. It's called Icis. It's ICIS, not ISIS, but ICIS, Icis. It's like Google Glass, but classy, says CNET. Huh. Well, that's kind of a bold claim there. It's like Google Glass, but better, essentially. So it's not surprising. The startup of founder Larry Page, he's all nerd and all business. Not a man, one suspects, who worries too much about couture. Now take a look at LaForge Optical CEO and founder Corey Mack in the video, which you can't, but there's a little snaz there. And what they're saying is these guys are snazzy guys, right? They look good. They're not the type you would see wearing Google Glass, because Google Glass looks stupid. So it's not surprising that his startup is taking on Google's famed glass at one of its more vulnerable pressure points, the embarrassment factor. I wouldn't wear them in public. I really wouldn't. I don't have, like, self-confidence issues too much. You know, like, I don't care if I look dumb, but this is on a different level. It's where people are going to be looking at you and being, what's that? You know? It's like, come on, leave me alone. I'd rather wear something functional and discreet, not something that's all in your face, literally, like Google Glass is. I'm not dissing Google Glass. Oh, I guess I am. I'm saying it looks dumb, but the technology is there, and it does work from what I've seen. But it looks like this Icis thing has a few more features, or at least different features. But let's read more about it. Although he says that he doesn't want to criticize Google Glass too much, as it isn't a finished product, Mac told the writer of the article that our biggest competition is Google Glass, but our approach is different, because we focused on creating a device that people don't mind being seen in. Oh, dang. Translation: LaForge's Icis is Google Glass for real human beings, and a real hero. You know, the ones who bathe in the power of the superficial, as well as the serious. Still not wishing to criticize Google Glass too much, he says that style is a subjective thing, and currently the bar is set pretty low. So, he and his team decided to create wearable eyewear, what other kind is there, that they believe not only looks good, but has a more friendly user interface, instead of having to look up and to the right, as with Google Glass. Icis's information, which comes from the cloud, is displayed around the outside of the field of vision, so you just look to the side. And I've seen proof of concept videos. It actually does look pretty good, if that's what they're going to do. Like, if that's the end product, then it's a pretty good end product. Mac makes lofty as well as stylish claims. He says his company has figured out how to give you augmented reality capabilities within a conventional-looking pair of eyeglasses for people regardless of their prescription. You might wonder, who are these clever people at LaForge? Well, they're current and former alumni of Rochester Institute of Technology. Mac himself came out of RIT's Mechanical Engineering Technology program. His undergraduate thesis focused on disaster relief housing and alternative fuel vehicles. Perhaps there's more money in technological fashion. Now, augmented reality, which they mentioned. True augmented reality is reality as you see it, as we are all looking around. That's reality, but augmented, changed, altered. Okay? Now, it's not like virtual reality, where everything you perceive is generated by a computer. Augmented reality, a majority of the things you perceive are generated by the real world. It's just there. But some things are generated by a computer. How does that work? Well, how it works is a camera sees your environment and it places a 3D model within that environment. There you go, augmented reality. Pretty simple stuff, but you can also, interact with it. So it's augmented reality. You can interact with what's in front of you. This has been a concept for quite a long time. In fact, I remember reading about it when I was much younger. I'm 18 now, but I remember reading about it when I was like 10. So this is not a brand new thing, but it's a new-ish thing. We didn't have it 20 years ago. The technology just wasn't there. Generally, it uses markers, and those markers are read by a program which then places a model on top of it, so you can rotate it around and all that sort of thing. So you don't actually see the marker, you just see the object placed on top of it. Well, you might wonder, is this practical? Well, sometimes yes. Sometimes it's just for games and that sort of thing, which is fine. Games are good. Games actually help further practical technology, I would say. But there are practical applications, business, marketing applications. For instance, if people are all wearing these augmented reality glasses, as I think they will be in the future in some way or another, they can walk around, and as they're walking around, their augmented reality panels will come up, and you'll see a 3D model there advertising a product. Or maybe you'll see a plate of food floating in the air above a restaurant, that sort of thing. It's opportunities for marketing there, and quite a few other things. Maybe a menu will pop up. So, should you believe that these glasses are indeed more stylish, you'll also be wondering about the snoop factor. Max said, there is no light that comes on when these are being filmed, when you are being filmed. We felt that a light would be overkill and that people would think that they would be getting scanned. Additionally, if I were in a crowded bar or walking down a street, I wouldn't know how many cell phone cameras and police cameras were looking at me anyway. I like to look at the upsides of having a camera like this on board. Think of how many people who were wrongly convicted of crimes who would not be in jail right now, or how much more abuse of police power would be exposed. He's got a point. If police don't know that what you're wearing has a camera on it, then they're less likely to be cautious around you. So they may show their true colors, if you know what I'm saying. And that goes for anybody, not just police. So I think it's a good development. I like the idea. There's nothing like the young to offer clear-eyed blind optimism. Okay, Mac does temper his sunny side by suggesting you could treat anyone wear glasses who is staring at you the same way as you would treat any other stranger staring at you, by screaming, "What you looking at?" and slapping them around the chops. No, by assuming that they might be up to little good. You'll suddenly believe that it's a Friday in June when I tell you that LaForge isn't fully funded. What? What does that mean? Anyway, he has an Indiegogo campaign, which you can go to. Do a search for Icis, I-C-I-S. The Indiegogo campaign will come up. If you want to fund the thing, you can. It says, Mac wants to refine the design and get it ready to be bought by the fashion-aware. The company hopes to have 2 different lines in the not-too-distant future, next Sunday AD. Mac's vision, though, is enticing. We have a turnkey solution when it comes to manufacturing, and a year or so down the road, you could potentially walk into an eye shop and have Icis be produced to your exact dimensions in about an hour. Hey, not bad. LaForge Optical, Mr. LaForge, can't be the only company that looks at the current iteration of Google Glass and thinks, ew. Instead, Google itself is working to make its creation more visually appealing. Oh, they got a lot of work to do. Still, you can't help but think that there's a certain intelligence in the LaForge basic approach to design. As its CEO explained, we design products for people, not in spite of people. That sounds like Mac rather than PC. Oh, because his name is Mac. But I think it's a cool thing. And I'll tell you why. Because I love the idea of augmented reality. I do. I think it's one of the cooler technologies out there. There's 3D printing and there's augmented reality. And these two can be combined, of course. If you capture an image in real world and then, you scan it maybe with your glasses and then you upload it to a 3D printer and it prints out that object, well, there you go, you've got a duplicate. Or who knows what else. You can use your Meta glasses, your Icis, your Google Glass to scan a QR code or something similar, who knows what we'll use in the future, at a store maybe, and then 3D print a model of the thing you saw. There's many different applications for augmented reality, and indeed for virtual reality glasses too, or just for a heads-up display, which is augmented reality in and of itself because it does project something into your field of view that isn't normally there. It augments your reality as you perceive it. Now the heads-up display, I assume these glasses will link to a smartphone like Google Glass does. We can hope. So that being the case, it will take calls, it'll play music, it'll do all sorts of different things, interacting with your phone. And he claims that it computes to the cloud, so I wonder if he means via connection to your phone, which does the major number crunching, or to an actual network of computers that does all the crunching for you. I don't know about that one. I hope it's connected to your smartphone and not to a bank of servers somewhere, simply because the bank of servers doesn't have the best latency ever. So if you send information to there and then it sends it back, there's going to be a bit of lag in what you're perceiving, and it's just not going to be pretty. And really the whole point, his whole point is being pretty, isn't it? It's fashion. It's stylish. Look it up. So, Icis, I-C-I-S, by this guy, LaForge. I'm interested. LaForge Optical, I'm interested. I will say that much about it. Not a direct endorsement, but I will say I'm intrigued. I'm not going to say go out and buy it, but if you are intrigued too, you can check it out. Google search ICIS, Icis, and by LaForge Optical, and the Indiegogo page should come up. I don't know how well they're funded right now. I checked yesterday. They had about 5,000 of a much larger goal, but they have 30 days to go. I'm sure this will get funded. It had better get funded. I'd like to see this come out. I'm kind of excited about the whole idea of augmented reality being totally graspable within our future. And that's part of the cool thing, one of the cool things about being young today. You have a whole lot to look forward to technologically. Not so much economically or socially, not at all. But technologically, there's a whole heck of a lot to look forward to. And I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you.
News and information now on your Twitter account.
Time that one nicely.
That's Hot News Radio. For the latest news and information, go to Hot News Radio. That's twitter.com. Then search Hot News Radio. Hot News Radio is a service of Copyright 40. The Man Radio Station. Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee Talk, Southern Rock, Kickin' Country, Crawl 40 the Copperhead. The Man Radio Station. You do that one more time and I'm going to throw you across the room. Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee Talk, Southern Rock, Kickin' Country, Crawl 40 the Copperhead. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. This is unheard of. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. You have to get the Capital Toyota on Lee Highway. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota is one of the world's classiest models car. 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota on Lee Highway with a savings that much better. You're a hard worker. Your little business is your future. E.J. Pelton Company is an accounting and tax service that works to help you keep what you have earned. E.J. Pelton keeps current on tax laws and has been helping people like you for 37 years. E.J. Pelton has an office on Dayton Pike in South Daisy, open all year to serve you. Think ahead, ejpelton.com. Call us 332-3339. That's 332-3339. That's ejpelton.com. Think ahead. You love your hometown. Are you interested in free markets, in local economy? Do you hope that Chattanooga can survive the next meltdown, the next chain of disasters in the national economy? What's the best way to live out the ideals of self-government and self-determination? Join me, David Toulis, at Nuganomics.com, weekdays 1 to 3 at 1240 Copperhead AM. Nuganomics.com. It's the home of Love Your Neighbor, Buy Local. Great slogan. You can listen to Copperhead Radio everywhere. On your AM radio at 1240, 910, or 1190. On the net, go to copperhead1240.com. Take Copperhead Radio to listen on the go. On your smartphone, download TuneIn. Then search for Copperhead 1240. Watch the Copperhead live at Ustream.tv. And of course, you can always follow us on Twitter at Copperhead Radio. And like us at Facebook.com/Copperhead1240. So there you go. Whether you're listening on the radio, watching us on television, taking us along with your smartphone, or just socializing on Facebook, make Copperhead Radio a part of your daily routine.
Copperhead 1240, Southern Rock, Kickin' Country, Tennessee Talk.
Man radio station, hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee Talk, Southern Rock, Kickin' Country. Copperhead 1240, 1190, and 910 AM. Picture that curl of steam rising from your fresh baked pizza. And in a flash, let it take you aloft, teasing all your senses. I'm talking about Jet's Pizza. If you eat out of Jet's in Dixon, or take home your steaming, deep dish square pizza, you'll love Jet's. They use only the best ingredients in a family recipe. Also try the cheesy bread, wings, chicken, or bread with bacon, antipasto or Greek salad. Jet's Pizza and Buy Low nearly S curves. Open till 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. You can order online or have it delivered. JetsPizza.com. That's JetsPizza.com. Or call them now. They'll have it ready when you get there. 757-1616. That's 757-1616. Hot and delightful above the clouds. Jet's Pizza. Now that's Italian. The Man Radio Station. Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee Talk, Southern Rock, Kickin' Country. 1240 The Copperhead.
Copperhead 1240, Southern Rock, Kickin' Country, Tennessee Talk.
The Man Radio Station.
Copperhead 1240.
Would you prefer to listen to Generation Z later?
Alright, what's going on? We are back with Generation Z. I am your host, Russell. Weather is largely the same, 67.0 degrees Fahrenheit presently. Not really a whole lot to report in terms of the weather. It's still, it's pretty good. It's funny, I'm looking out the window here, and people are driving out of the parking lot like there's some sort of riot going on. They're all driving out. Of course, it's because it's lunch hour, but yeah. I just think it's funny to look out the window, all these cars trying to get out. 67 degrees right now, 52 is the low. 40% chance of precipitation. So we've actually hit the high, 67.1. We're actually over the high for today. So that shows you how reliable forecasts are. But what's going on? Oh, no, not that. Oh, right. Gee, I totally lost what I was doing. There we go. See, there's a problem. My notes are on a computer, right? And if something happens to that, I don't know what to do. I mean, I can improvise without a problem, but it's like, whoa, what happened to all of my everything? But this computer is my everything. No, the Google Chrome's shutdown glitch defies an easy fix, according to CNET. Kind of a major problem when your browser has a glitch that causes it to shut down. That's part of why I don't use Google Chrome. I use either Opera or Firefox, mainly Firefox. But I do like Opera quite a bit. And those are my two browsers. My main browsers right there. Don't ever use Safari. And don't let me catch you using Internet Explorer. I can understand Chrome because it's kind of, it's out there, it's hip, it's cool, whatever. But if I catch you finding or using Internet Explorer, you're dead, man. Using Internet Explorer while I'm watching. Don't even. I can't stand Internet Explorer. Oh, man. No, my point, though, is Internet Explorer is a very terrible browser. Don't use... The one thing that I have ever used Internet Explorer for was to Google search Firefox to download it. Not even kidding. Like, the one time I had to use Internet Explorer was to find Firefox. I mean, I cannot stand Internet Explorer. It's just, it hurts to use it. It physically pains me to use Internet Explorer. It was actually on a Vista machine I had to do that too, so it was twice as bad. Ugh, Vista is death. But Google Chrome's shutdown glitch defies an easy fix. When diagnosing PC problems, sometimes it pays to take the easy route. Yeah, sure, according to CNET. About every time the writer of the article opens Google Chrome lightly, an error message alerts him that the browser failed to close correctly. He's then prompted to click the restore button to reopen the tabs that were active when Chrome last closed. Who's got the time to figure out what's causing the browser to hiccup when it closes? Just go to the restore route or start the browser session afresh. No big deal, right? Having nothing better to do over the holiday weekend, he decided to look into the matter. The only thing his investigation determined is that the problem dates back years and occurs on every kind of hardware that Chrome runs on, including the new Windows 8.1 Metro version 32 of the browser. Version 32 of Chrome, I should say. Well, that's kind of an odd glitch, isn't it? You click on the browser, you click on the red X, or you do Command Q, what have you, to close Google Chrome, and it crashes. I mean, it's fine that it crashes, big deal, but now you have to restore the tabs, and it's weird. It's an odd bug to have. Huh, why is that happening? It's kind of an odd bug. Well, your choice of potential Chrome shutdown fixes. Chrome shutdown? Fixes the first proposed solution he found entailed deleting the preferences file in Chrome's user data system folder. Another recommended renaming the default folder in the Chrome system folder path so the program would create a new one. But that doesn't explain why it does that. So that means after a certain amount of time of use, it starts crashing when you close it. Is it too much info for it to handle? Is it... what's going on? Then there were those that swore by updating Chrome's extensions, or clearing your history and cookies, or uninstalling and then reinstalling the browser. One forum denizen suggested typing about :// in Chrome's address bar to troubleshoot problems with third-party apps. Well, for the writer of the article, deleting the browser's preferences file and renaming its default system folder both worked for a time. Eventually, Chrome's failure to relaunch message would surface. Now, what would be causing this problem? This is not a natural problem to be having with a browser. You close it, and it crashes. How? Why? We still don't know yet. As W.C. Fields once said, if at first you don't succeed, try again, then quit. There's no use in being a fool about it, right? Well, new Chrome for Windows 8.1 may get you off the desktop and onto a Chromebook. A Chromebook? The silver lining of his weekend spent launching, relaunching, then relaunching Chrome, interspersed with trips to various system folders and settings dialog boxes, is a new appreciation for native Windows 8 apps over the classic desktop alternatives. Well, good for you, but I still don't like Windows 8, so sorry, buddy. I just cannot bring myself to like Windows 8. It's just not happening. I've heard that 8.1 Metro or whatever is okay, but I'll stick with 7 for now. Until they come out with Windows 9 that has a start menu and isn't stupid, I'll keep using Windows 7. Well, you can set Chrome to native Windows 8 mode. Click the settings icon in the top right corner of the browser window and choose Relaunch Chrome in Windows 8 mode. If Chrome isn't already your default browser, you'll have to choose it in the dialog box that appears. You can revert to the previous default browser after making the switch. It's not a big deal. First thing you notice is the browser's full screen view, which places the Chrome OS's shelf in the bottom left corner of the screen with a simple clock in the bottom right corner. Click the button to the far left of the shelf to open your apps window, and other shelf shortcuts open your Chrome apps and various Google services, the Chrome browser, Gmail, Google Drive, Google Docs, and YouTube. So basically this can be fixed by having Chrome go Windows 8 native. So that's good, but I don't like Chrome and I don't like Windows 8, so no thanks. I'll stick with Firefox and Windows 7 and Ubuntu. Just my personal preference there. But in case you were wondering, yeah, there is a fix. You can set it to Windows 8 native mode, and that'll fix it. Now, there's a new Trojan out there. We all know the story of the Trojan horse, right? The Trojans, in their war, they built a horse and sent it into that city, and the horse was actually full of soldiers, and they presented it as a gift, and at night they jumped out and attacked everybody. Trojan horse. Well, according to SC Magazine, a new variant of the nefarious Zeus banking Trojan called Zeus VM is concealed in JPEG image files, according to the collaborative findings of Jerome Segura, senior security researcher with Malwarebytes, and French security researcher Xylitol. The act is known as steganography. Steganography, there we go. Concealing messages or images in other messages or images. In the case of Zeus's VM, the malware code, I should say, is hidden in unassuming JPEG images, a Monday blog post by Segura revealed. These photos serve as misdirection for Zeus VM to retrieve its configuration file. The JPEG contains the malware configuration file, which is essentially a list of scripts and financial institutions, but doesn't need to be opened by the victim themselves, Segura told scmagazine.com in a Tuesday email correspondence. In fact, the JPEG itself has very little visibility to the user and is largely a cloaking technique to ensure it is undetected from a security software standpoint. Yeah, because if you have a scanner like AVG or Avast or, heaven help you, Windows Defender, then it's not going to pick up on a JPEG image because everyone has JPEG images somewhere, right? Being infected by Zeus VM Trojan allows for man-in-the-middle and man-in-the-browser attacks, Segura said, adding that visiting certain URLs such as banking websites will cause the Trojan to respond and begin interacting in real time. This means attackers can obtain certain information by altering a login page using web injects, or they could perform wire transfers while altering the victim's account balance to make it seem like funds were never removed, Segura said. Wow. Meanwhile, the Zeus VM main executable buried deep within the computer is communicating with the command and control server, Segura said, adding that it reactivates every time the system reboots. So you can't fix this by restarting your computer. It's just going to pop right back up again. It's got a daemon. This piece of malware can be distributed in many different ways, but most typically through phishing emails or web-based attack, Segura said, explaining the malware could also be spread via malvertising, which involves websites hosting ads that spread malware. To show the difference between an original image and a compromised image, Segura, in this blog post, posted two seemingly identical JPEGs side by side. When viewed in bitmap mode and hexadecimal viewer, the added bits of malicious code were noticeable. To make identification more difficult, the appended data is encrypted with base 64, RCR, and XOR, Segura wrote in the post. To decode it, you can reverse the file with a debugger such as OllyDbg and grab the encryption routine. Alternatively, you can use the leaked Zeus source code to create your own module that will decompress the data blocks. So that's how that works. Kind of weird, kind of different, but I like it. I like that you're able to hide information in JPEG files, is what I'm saying. Now, you're going to say, why do you like Trojans? I don't. I hate Trojans. They're awful. But I've known about this for a while. You can, a JPEG, hide information within it. That means if, say, the police, for instance, the FBI, whoever, gets your computer, you can hide some information in JPEG images so that it won't really be found by them, or at least probably. You know, so that's one thing you could do. Or better yet, have a text file and just change the extension to .jpeg, and they won't be able to figure it out because police don't know how computers work. So, hooray! It's a different sort of Trojan, though, hidden in a image file. Another way of telling is if the image is strangely large, too. Like if you got a JPEG file that's like 500 by 500, but it's somehow like 5 megabytes big, probably shouldn't download that. Just saying. But that's how it goes, man. That's how it goes. That reminds me, though, there's a private chat service called Tox, T-O-X, and I'm on it. So if anyone wants to Tox me, they can. I'll put the address in my in the description for this video on Ustream, so that you can find it easily. T-O-X, Tox, and I'll also put it on Twitter. It's Generation Z1240 on Twitter, and you can email me to retrieve it as well. GenerationZ1240@gmail.com. It's private encrypted chat. It's supposedly secure. I don't know how secure it really is, but it's worth a shot anyway, right? So if you want to chat with me, you can on Tox, and I'll put the info in the video description here on Ustream, and the video description on YouTube if I ever get around to putting it up on there. So there you go. On Tox, you can get in touch, talk about whatever. Oh yeah, Kickstarter was breached, by the way. You may have heard about that story. Kickstarter was breached. The CEO warns encrypted passwords can be cracked. Encrypted passwords can be cracked, according to SC Magazine. After popular crowdfunding platform Kickstarter announced on Saturday that it experienced a breach, all users are being urged to change their passwords, even though the company uses encryption. Current passwords are hashed with bcrypt, but older passwords were uniquely salted and digested multiple times using SHA-1. Yancey Strickler, using SHA-1. Yancey Strickler, CEO of Kickstarter, wrote in a security notice posted on the website and sent to all registered users. So I should have gotten that. Actual passwords were not revealed. However, it is possible for a malicious person with enough computing power to guess and crack an encrypted password, particularly a weak or obvious one, Strickler wrote. Law enforcement officials alerted Kickstarter on Wednesday night that an unauthorized party gained access to the company's information, which included usernames, email addresses, mailing addresses, phone numbers, and encrypted passwords, but did not include payment card data, according to Strickler. The breach was immediately locked down, and Kickstarter quickly began taking measures to enhance security, Strickler said. He added that users who logged into Facebook have not been compromised, and that those credentials have only been reset as a precaution. So if you logged into Kickstarter with your Facebook details, you're fine. They just reset it to be sure, to be careful. Because you never know, you can't be too sure. So, you know, you'll be okay when it comes to the Facebook side of things. And they don't store credit card info either, so you'll be okay there. But if they guess your password or they crack your password, they can try those usernames and passwords at bank websites and see if they work. So you got to watch out for that too. Maybe you should change your password on your bank website. A law enforcement investigation is ongoing, but as of now, only 2 Kickstarter accounts have been compromised, Strickler wrote, explaining that the company was in touch with those users and has secured their accounts. So they're good too. Strickler said Kickstarter waited roughly 4 days before announcing the breach to ensure that the issue was rectified and the matter was properly investigated. It is considerably quick for a breach notification when compared to other recently compromised entities that waited as long as several months. In a statement emailed to scmagazine.com on Monday, Patrick Thomas, security consultant at mobile and cloud security company NeoHapsis, wrote that he was impressed with Kickstarter's timely notification, as well as its clear messaging and proper password handling. Kickstarter explained in clear terms what was and was not affected, and gave straightforward actions for users to follow as a result, Thomas wrote. Kickstarter's move to bcrypt for more recent passwords is particularly encouraging. It builds in the idea of strong unique salts and a scalable work factor, so that defenders can easily dial up the amount of computation required to try out a hash as computers get faster. So bcrypt is good, and it's good that Kickstarter is using it. So what we learn is that passwords have been retrieved, but they're pretty well encrypted, and it probably won't happen again either because Kickstarter's taken measures. So good. It's all good. That's what we need to hear. Because the last thing we need is a bunch of passwords out there where, they can be retrieved and used for malicious purposes. So it's good that they've fixed this problem. I'm impressed with Kickstarter for acting this quickly. I really am. Kickstarter is doing good work with password recovery or password protection. So to be sure, though, to be safe, I would change your password on Kickstarter if you have a password there. I know I have. So it would be a good idea to change your password to something unique on there, just in case, so this doesn't happen again. So try that out. The White House has responded to that net neutrality petition. There we go. The White House responded to that net neutrality petition, according to Slashdot. You may have heard about that. Net neutrality, of course, was the thing that said that carriers can't interfere with subscribers or other carriers, and they can't discriminate, all that sort of thing. They can't discriminate with their bandwidth. They have to give equal bandwidth to everybody, is what they were saying. Within the tier system, anyway. Well, the White House has officially responded to a We the People petition created on January 15th, 2014, which urged the president to direct the FCC to classify ISPs as common carriers under the D.C. U.S. Court of Appeals after the D.C. U.S. Court of Appeals struck down the Federal Communications Commission's open internet rules. The White House statement says, absent net neutrality, the internet could turn into a high-priced private toll road that would be inaccessible to the next generation of visionaries, but notes the FCC is an independent agency. Chairman Wheeler has publicly pledged to use the full authority granted by the Congress to maintain a robust, free, and open internet, a principle that his White House, White House vigorously supports. Well, that's all well and good, but how do you enforce that? How do you make companies do things with internet that's owned by them, right? I mean, the internet, when it comes right down to it, is owned by the people who have the servers. Not by the people who use it, but the people who own the servers. That's who the internet's owned by. So it's kind of hard to regulate that, to force them to do things that they probably do not want to do. How are you going to do that? Well, by force, obviously. They're going to make the FCC do their thing. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's such a good thing. Here's why. What I think is, if people are unhappy with their ISPs, they're going to switch over to a new one, right? Unless that ISP has some sort of monopoly in the area, which we don't really have a problem with here. We have APB, we have Comcast, we have Charter, we have your local phone companies. There's all sorts of alternatives to any given company in this area, particularly where I live, in Georgia. And it's an interesting situation. It brings up a lot of free market arguments, too, because on the one hand, it would hurt their business to throttle, say, Netflix or Hulu, if you're Comcast, we'll say, because that's a big reason for people to upgrade their connection, right, from, say, basic DSL up to fiber optic speeds. That's a big incentive, so they get faster Netflix streaming, right? So it makes no sense for them to throttle Netflix and say, hey, we don't really like what's going on with the whole Netflix thing. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's more likely is that they may raise prices just a little bit, but prices may go down too. The Comcast Time Warner merger, that does put a damper on things a little bit, but that may be seen as a monopoly too, and the courts may not allow that. With the antitrust laws, that just may not be allowed. So that's odd too, that a merger of companies is simply disallowed. That seems strange to me. Because, too big to fail does not exist. We know this. But, anyway. A question has been raised. Are we cyborgs? Well, most of us, I can be relatively confident, do not have implants, right? I mean, this is not Cyberpunk 2077. We don't have implants. Sorry, we just don't. We don't have Shadowrun decks or anything like that. But Slashdot, this article here, beyond your smartphone screen lies an infinitely more interesting world. If only you could get past the myopic app view you're currently bound to. Glenn Martin ponders the existential unease lying at the root of the Internet of Things, which is the idea that everything connected to the Internet is connected to each other. The Internet of Things is physical objects in the real world that are connected to the Internet, and you can interact with them via those devices. It's complicated. We're already cyborgs, though. Biological matrices augmented by wirelessly connected silicon arrays of various configurations. The problem is that we're pretty clunky as cyborgs go. We rely on screens and mobile devices to extend our powers beyond the biological. That leads to everything from atrophying social skills to as face-to-face interactions decline to fatal encounters with garbage trucks as we wander, texting and oblivious into traffic. So, if we are going to be cyborgs, argues Bressman, let's be competent, sophisticated cyborgs. For one thing, it's now in our ability to upgrade beyond the screen. For another, being better cyborgs may make us, paradoxically, more human. So, are you going to be a competent cyborg, or are you going to get hit by a garbage truck? That's the question. What does it mean to be human? Well, we know this, obviously. It's just an esoteric question that's always thrown out there. Thanks, Blade Runner. But for real, though, it's an interesting question. We're going to talk more about transhumanism, cyborgs, all that sort of thing, just in a few minutes. But also, we're going to talk about Edward Snowden. More developments regarding him. Snowden elected as rector by students at the University of Glasgow, according to Russia Today. He's a rector now. That's an odd development. We're going to talk about that and transhumanism and cyborgism. So hold on for all that on Generation Z.
All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. This is unheard of. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. But you have to get the Capital Toyota up Lee Highway. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota is home of the world's classiest mid-priced car, the Camry. Capital is your Lexus and Scion dealer. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota on Lee Highway with a savings that much better.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and road damage are prime causes for indoor air quality. Ducts, indoor air professionals, better known as duct busters, means HVAC systems using 127 definable duct busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer rooms. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, indoor air professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
Enjoy today. The Man Radio Station. Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee Talk, Southern Rock, Country, 1240 The Copperhead. The Man Radio Station. Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee Talk, Southern Rock, Country. WSDQ Dunlap, WEPG South Pittsburgh, The Copperhead, WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
The Copperhead, 1240, Southern Rock, Kickin' Country, Tennessee Talk.
The Man Radio Station.
Copperhead, 1240.
I've exhausted every evil plan in my filing cabinet, from A to Y.
Alright, what's going on? We are back with Generation Z. I happen to be your host, Russell, in case you hadn't noticed. There's an interesting story that's just popped up here. I think this guy may actually get a world record here. 101-year-old man announces a campaign for Congress. 101 years old. That's kind of old. A 101-year-old man has announced to his intentions to run for Congress. Huh. Sarasota County resident Joe Newman will be vying for Florida's 16th Congressional District, WFLA is reporting, and this is from CBS Tampa Bay, by the way. He feels that his age is an advantage to him, and that his years of life experience have given him an education that he is keen to share with others. You learn through life. You have certain responsibilities, he told the station, and if you don't fulfill them, how can you look in the mirror? With your eyes. Newman lived through the Great Depression when he was just 16 years of age, one of many formative experiences in his long life, and one of many dramatic national shifts he witnessed over the years. Some of his trials and tribulations have inspired his aspirations, he says. If elected, Newman hopes to work toward creating a government that can eradicate poverty, oh boy, and take care of its senior citizens by properly funding Social Security and expanding Medicare. Oh, never mind. He lost my interest, and for those who might doubt him, he has a few choice words. If people are saying, "Who is this fool at 101 running?" Call me a fool. I'm sorry, but I've got to get out and convince John and convince Jim. Hey, think, he told WFLA. What's the best thing our society can do, and what is the responsibility of our society, he says. He continued, my hope is that we get a chance to speak out and make people reflect on what you want from your society. What do I want from my society? I want to be left alone. That's what I want from my society. I'm kind of I guess I'm a bit of a recluse, perhaps, but really when it comes down to it, I just want to be left alone by society. I don't like society. They're annoying. But yeah, that's just how it is. I don't like the idea of people prying into my business, right? Because my business is my business and nobody else's, and the same goes for anyone else. I don't want to pry into other people's business. I don't care what you do, right? I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean, I care if you're hurt or injured or you need help. Yeah, sure, of course, I'm there. But when it comes down to something like, what do you do behind closed doors? I don't really care if you're not hurting anybody. You know what I mean? I just kind of don't. That's the name of the game, man. But whatever. There's some people who insist on prying into other people's business, making them pay money for things they never agreed to pay money for. That's kind of a big deal, isn't it? Making people pay money. A lot of us don't have a lot of money, right? I don't have copious amounts of cash that I can just grab and spend on whatever I want. I gotta save my money. And when it comes to taxes and stuff like that, it's like, hey, you gotta pay taxes for old people and to make them feel better, and you gotta pay taxes because of this guy who was too lazy to work and all that sort of thing. It's like, come on, I don't want to pay taxes for that. Fortunately, I haven't paid taxes yet, but it's the principle of the thing. And of course, I have paid sales tax in numerous different states, but that's something you can't really avoid, unfortunately. If I could get out of that one, I would too. I'll tell you that right here and now. If I could get out of sales tax, I would do it. Maybe I could make myself sales tax exempt. Is there a way to do that? Like show them a card that says, "Yeah, I don't have to pay sales tax. Sorry." I need to get that. I need to invent that. Maybe. Is that fraud? Saying that that I don't need to pay sales tax. I need to look into that. This could be fun. But anyway, what were we? Oh right, transhumanism and cyborgs. Getting back on topic. Transhumanism and cyborgs. Always fun to talk about. Well, transhumanism is the idea that we can be more than human, essentially. While I think that goal is unobtainable in the long run, you can't be more than human because it's what you are. You can't go from something to something you're not. I don't think it works that way. But I do think that we can sort of augment ourselves to make ourselves Not better, but different. More functional in the modern society, I guess you'd say. Can it be done? Well, I think so, with the help of technology. Like I was saying about those glasses, the Icis glasses, yeah, they work. Apparently, according to all the videos I've seen and the description, they would work. And they would change us from people who can only see with our eyes. Well, we can all see with our eyes, but you know what I mean. People who can only perceive what is normally perceived by the retina to someone who can see sort of a different layer of reality. And that, in its sense, is being a cyborg. It's not directly put into our brains or our skulls or anything like that, but it is a device that allows us to perceive things differently. It's in that basic sense, it is making us a cyborg. And we have smartphones too. Allow us to communicate with each other instantly, no matter where we are, as long as we have cell signal. So in that sense too, we're cyborgs. So it's different. It's very different from what we're used to, or from what previous generations have been used to. I mean, think about it. 20 years ago, you couldn't. Well, 20 years ago was 1990. What? 1994. Huh. Okay. 30 years ago, you couldn't just walk around and communicate with people instantly. It didn't happen. Even 15 years ago, it didn't work out so great. You couldn't be anywhere in the continental United States and suddenly send a text to somebody or an image. You definitely couldn't do that. You definitely couldn't just send an image to somebody and say, yeah, here, I saw this cool thing, look at it. Or you couldn't send pictures of your lunch to people around the world who would then connect to a massive bank of servers to view them and also like it. You know, that didn't happen. So in that sense, society is completely different from what it was just 15 years ago. Completely different. And it's weird because it's not like one of those things where it's like from the 60s to the 70s it wasn't massively different. Maybe the style and the fashion was, but society in and of itself wasn't like massively different where everything is unrecognizable and that sort of thing. But from the 70s to the 2000s, the 2010s, it's completely different. Just in that short span of time of 40 years, it's completely changed the face of everything. And you can't really say that from 1800 to 1840. It's not like everything is completely different. It's interesting. We're moving very fast as a civilization. I wonder how high we can go before we fall down. Because every society does collapse at some point. That's the sad fact of it. But moving on, Edward Snowden has been elected as rector by students at the University of Glasgow, according to RT. Students at the University of Glasgow have elected former NSA contractor turned whistleblower Edward Snowden as the school's rector in the university court for the next 3 years. Results of the online election were announced shortly after 1700 GMT on Tuesday. They showed that Snowden, nominated by students of the school after receiving approval through his lawyer, had bested former racing cyclist Graham Obrey, author Alan Bissett, and the Reverend Kelvin Holdsworth, according to The Guardian. The university's rector represents the student body before the university court, which assigns resources at the school and its statutory chairman of the court. A new rector is elected every 3 years by students. Snowden is not expected to fulfill his duties as rector, as he is currently under temporary asylum in Russia. He is wanted by the U.S. on charges of espionage and theft of government property after leaking a vast trove of classified material to journalists that revealed more understanding of the National Security Agency's global spying operations. We are delighted to see Edward Snowden elected as the new rector of the University of Glasgow, said Chris Castles, Snowden's spokesperson for the rector election campaign. We have a proud and virtuous tradition of making significant statements through our rectors, and today we have once more championed this idea by proving to the world that we are not apathetic to important issues such as democratic rights. We would like to thank all the other candidates as well as the students who nominated them for promoting an exciting and relevant debating atmosphere over the last few weeks. And what's funny to me is that there is debate over this whole thing. Like, should he have leaked this or should he not have? Well, isn't it kind of obvious? Of course he should have. He showed basically human rights abuses, essentially. That's what it comes down to. And people are debating, should he or should he have not exposed them? Well, of course. It's a basic human right to privacy, right? And it's not a human rights abuse like in the case of, say, North Korea or Sudan or anything like that. It's, and it's assuming that the reports are true, but still, it's not anything like that. It's not something so severe as that, but it is a human rights abuse. Not to put it on the same scale of those terrible incidents, but it is a human rights abuse perpetrated by the National Security Agency. We would like to thank all other candidates as well as the students who nominated them for promoting an exciting and relevant debating atmosphere for the last few weeks. David Newell, Secretary of the University Court, said Snowden's nomination contributed to a historical rector campaign. This has been a record turnout for a rectorial election, and I warmly congratulate Edward Snowden on his success, Newell said. Former leader of the Liberal Democrats and outgoing rector Charles Kennedy said, "It has been a pleasure and a privilege to serve the students of the University of Glasgow over the past 6 years. The post of rector is an important one, and I would like to wish my successor all the very best in his term of office." So good for him. Snowden is not the first elected University of Glasgow rector that is not expected to fulfill his duties. For example, South African activist Winnie Mandela was elected. Winnie Mandela? Was elected in 1987, and fellow anti-apartheid activist Albert Luty was elected in 1962, but it was understood that neither would participate as an active rector. The university's first rector, Robert Ramsey, was elected in 1648, way back then. So it must be kind of cool for Snowden to be the rector in 2014, where the first rector was in 1648. That's a long history, a long history that's recorded. And he'll be in those records, going all the way back to 1648. That must be really cool. You know, I would be pretty honored to be a rector of some university. Not that that'll ever happen, but you know, if anyone's out there who is in charge of putting people in a position to be elected the rector of a university, please let me know, because I would love to be one. But, except not because I'm not going to college, but whatever. Who knows, man? I just don't think it's important for my line of work, but whatever. So Snowden's been elected rector. That's kind of cool, though. I like that. But this is a thing I don't like. Not severely or animosity or anything like that, but Belkin's Wemo it's a dumb name, Wemo, smart home networks in danger of hacks, according to CNET. Hacks! Smartphone networks are rapidly gaining popularity, but some security experts worry that not enough encryption controls are coming with the products. Security firm IOActive released an advisory PDF on Tuesday saying more than 500,000 Belkin Wemo devices are susceptible to a widespread hack. The firm uncovered several vulnerabilities in the devices, which would let hackers gain access to home networks and remotely control internet-connected appliances. Uh-oh. So what does this mean? What kind of internet-connected appliances? Well, we're talking about sprinkler systems. We're talking about washing machines and dryers, air conditioning, fire alarms, there we go. CO2 alerts, not CO2, carbon monoxide, there we go. CO2. And all sorts of other things. Lights. Who knows? The hacks could range from a mean-spirited prank to actually posing a danger. For example, they could be as benign as turning someone's house lights on and off to something dangerous like getting a fire started. Twisted fire starter. Many of Belkin's Wemo home automation products let users build their own smart home solutions by adding internet connectivity to any device, like sprinkler systems, thermostats, and antennas. It's like the old X10 stuff. Once connected, users can control their appliances from a smartphone, or with a smartphone, from anywhere in the world. Well, that's all well and good. That means I can check on the temperature in my house from all the way over in Hickson, because I live in Georgia. But, it's, I don't know how they could start fires, though. Well, let's read more into it. However, hackers could also get into these networks, warns IOActive. The vulnerabilities found by the firm would let hackers remotely control and monitor home networks, along with perform malicious firmware updates, and gain access to other devices like laptops and smartphones. I guess you could turn on the sprinklers while the toaster's on, and start an electrical fire that way, or something like that. According to IOActive, the vulnerabilities would let hackers impersonate Belkin's encryption keys and cloud services to push malicious firmware updates and capture credentials at the same time. As long as Belkin doesn't patch these vulnerabilities, IOActive recommends that users refrain from using the Wemo devices. The firm has worked with the U.S. government's Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT, on these recommendations, and CERT issued its own advisory on Tuesday. So they're not messing around with this. You really should not use the Wemo stuff right now. As we connect our homes to the internet, it is increasingly important for Internet of Things device vendors to ensure that reasonable security methodologies are adopted early in product development cycles, IOActive's principal research scientist Mike Davis said in a statement. This mitigates their customers' exposure and reduces risk. Another concern is the Wemo devices use motion sensors, which can be used by an attacker to remotely monitor occupants within the home. Wow. CNET contacted Belkin for comment, and they'll update the story when they get more information. I don't think they'll get a comment from Belkin. Imagine that, though. They can use the motion sensors to see where occupants are in their house. And that's like science fiction stuff, right? Well, apparently not, because it's actually happening. It's weird stuff, man. How's our weather looking, though, is my question. Never mind Belkin, how's our weather? Well, let's see. It is presently 71.1 degrees. Wow, that is nice. It's like spring out there. Oh, they changed the high temperature, by the way, on the forecast. They said, oh, now it'll be 71 for the high, after it becomes 71. I mean, come on, guys. 40% chance of precipitation, thunderstorms. Thursday, 72 is the high, 45 is the low, so it's going to be a nice day tomorrow, too. 20% chance of precipitation. Friday, chance of rain, 20% chance of precipitation. 58 is the high, 31 is the low. Going to be chilly on Friday. Saturday, too, for that matter, where 61 is the high and 34 is the low. Partly cloudy, 0% chance of precipitation. Sunday, 54 is the high, 31 is the low, and partly cloudy, 10% chance of precipitation. So all this week, it's going to be pretty okay. It's not going to be wonderful spring weather, but it's going to be not quite as chilly as it has been, which is below freezing. So that's good. And it probably won't snow this weekend, which is nice because snow kind of is not good for me. It keeps me from coming in here. So yeah, I live on a hill, so if it starts snowing, it's like, sorry, I can't go anywhere now. Thanks, snow. Thanks, Obama. And we have a feature story here that we're going to get into. It's about the Comcast and Time Warner merger. We're going to get to that later, though. For now, we have, if I can find it, it is here, trust me. Here we go. It's okay to parody the NSA, according to Ars Technica. Well, that's good to know. Dan McCall has been making t-shirts and mugs that parody the National Security Agency as the only part of the government that actually listens, over a decade now. In 2011, he got a cease and desist letter from the NSA and from the Department of Homeland Security, insisting that his goods be removed from Zazzle.com. McCall was forced to take his items off of Zazzle, although he later reopened his online shop at Cafe Press, selling his shirt as censored by the NSA. Last October, when the NSA was already in the spotlight due to disclosures over widespread surveillance, McCall filed a lawsuit saying that his t-shirts and mugs, which were parodies of government agencies, were protected by the First Amendment. He argued that the agencies had no right to ask them to be removed. It's bad enough that these agencies have us under constant surveillance. Forbidding citizens from criticizing them is beyond the pale, said public citizens Paul Levy, who filed the suit on McCall's behalf. Well, yeah, they're right. I mean, think about that. They're basically censoring him, saying that you cannot criticize us. How American is that? Well, in this day and age, it's very American, because that's what happens all the dang time. But, I mean, jeez, that's just messed up. Now the NSA has admitted, though, that McCall is actually right. Levy said that protecting the right to sell parody merchandise using government seals defends an important principle. Citizens shouldn't have to worry whether criticizing government agencies will get them in trouble or not, Levy said in a statement. This settlement proves the First Amendment is there to protect citizens' rights to free speech. In the settlement, both the DHS and the NSA have agreed to send letters confirming that the parody merchandise does not violate any laws. The government will have to pay McCall $500 to cover basic costs related to the filing of the lawsuit. The NSA acknowledges that McCall's designs were intended as a parody and should not have been viewed as conveying the impression that the designs were approved, endorsed, or authorized by the NSA, reads the letter, which the NSA will send to Zazzle and which the Public Citizen has published. I'm glad the case helped reaffirm the right to lampoon our government, said McCall. I always thought parody was a healthy tradition in American society. It's good to know that it's still legal. And it is a good tradition. Remember Dumb Starbucks? They got shut down in Los Angeles, but they're moving over to New York, so that's good. Dumb Starbucks, that was funny. It's a Starbucks, sells coffee, sells donuts, all that good stuff. But it's called Dumb Starbucks. That's the joke. That's it. It's called Dumb Starbucks. And it sells dumb coffee, dumb donuts, all these other things, and it has the Starbucks logo. But instead of just saying Starbucks coffee, it says Dumb Starbucks. That's the joke. That's the extent of it. And it's kind of funny, because you got Dumb Starbucks. I mean, it's fun to say too, Dumb Starbucks. But, I mean, it's a joke. It's a parody. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Anyone would know that Starbucks doesn't endorse a store called Dumb Starbucks as much as we would endorse a radio station called Stupid Copperhead 1240. You know, it wouldn't happen. But it's still funny, and if someone did do that to us, I think it would be pretty funny. But, you know, it's like the anti-Copperhead, where they start spewing propaganda about how great the government is and how Obama's a wonderful president and all that sort of thing. Of course, I argue that there hasn't really been a wonderful president since the first one. Maybe I'm nuts, but that's just how I see it, man. I mean, maybe there have been a few after him, but I don't like many presidents. I mean, I'm one of those wackos who thinks that Reagan wasn't that great of a president. You know, that's how crazy I am. And you know, JFK was all right for the things he did. You know, the gold standard and all that, but it kind of got him killed. So, ouch. But yeah, enough about presidents. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about Chromebooks, and they're apparently a success. I don't have one, but they're apparently a success. And Google adds focus on Chrome boxes, according to TechCrunch. Yeah, not just Chromebooks now, but also Chrome boxes. And, furthermore, Australia's immigration department publishes details of asylum seekers, according to ZDNet, basically violating their privacy rights, or are they? And also, we're going to talk about the Time Warner and Comcast merger. Will it happen? Will it be allowed? And, of course, the weather and the traffic. Weather, by the way, it is presently, if I can find my mouse cursor, it is presently 70.5 degrees, a beautiful day today. So enjoy it while you can, because it's not going to last. But anyway, soon we're going to be talking about Chromebooks, Chrome boxes, privacy rights, and also Time Warner and Comcast. So hang on for all that here on Generation Z.
Search for Copperhead 1240. Watch the Copperhead live at Ustream.tv. And of course, you can always follow us on Twitter at Copperhead Radio. And like us at Facebook.com/Copperhead1240. So there you go. Whether you're listening on the radio, watching us on television, taking us along with your smartphone, or just socializing on Facebook, make Copperhead Radio part of your daily routine.
Copperhead 1240, Southern Rock, keeping country Tennessee talk.
The Man Radio Station. Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee talk, Southern Rock, country. Copperhead 1240, 1190, and 910 AM.
Girls about personal relationships and trust. For many years, I've been a happy customer of S&S Auto Repair in East Spring. I take my car to S&S Auto Repair, even though I live in sunny days. Steve Smith and his family have always treated me like a neighbor. When I drop my car off at S&S and I get that worrisome call about the extent of my problem, well, I get the quote and I confidently say, go ahead, keep your car. Maintain your value. That's what I do. S&S specializes in Honda, Acura, Toyota, Scion, Lexus, Nissan, and a 50. My name is David Tulis. I'm a happy customer of S&S Auto Repair, and you can be one too. Call S&S at 855-3436. That's 855-3436. Online, ssautorepair.net.
Check out some of the greatest deals going on right now. Inside and into at Wesley's Corner Store. That's the Allen Elementary. Get your energy drink now. Monster Java Coffee, $2 for $1. $2 for $1. Starbucks Coffee, $2 for $5. Motel Milk, $2 for $6. That's $2 off.
The largest selection of wine coolers, 10 for $12. Yummy!
Mix and match 2-liter Coke Pepsi Cups, 40 for $5.
24 pack of Natural Light, $16.69.
24 cups, $24.99. 6-pack Snorty beer, just $8.69.
1 gallon Mayfield milk, just $4.79.
And now slushies are available at Wesley's Corner Store with the best deals in town. Wesley's Corner Store, Dallas Hall Road, next to Allen Elementary, Southern. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. This is unheard of. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. But you have to get to Capital Toyota on Lee Highway. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota is home of the world's classiest mid-price car, the Camry. Capital is your Lexus and Scion deal. All this month, take advantage of 0% financing or a $1,500 rebate on your new Camry. That's right, $1,500 cash back or 0% financing on a brand new Camry. Capital Toyota on Lee Highway, with the savings are that much better.
Enjoy today.
The Man Radio Station.
I will rule the world.
Hunting, fishing, NASCAR, Tennessee talk, Southern rock, kickin' country. 1240 The Copperhead.
The Copperhead 1240, Southern Rock, Kickin' Country, Tennessee Talk.
The Man Radio Station.
Copperhead 1240.
IRC, Internet Relay Chat. It's how hackers talk to the one you have heard.
So pretty premature for inclusive percent.
Lead speak. Luckily, I speak lead. You get a screenshot? Got it.
You are listening to Generation Z.
Alright, we're back with Generation Z. What's going on? So, we were just talking about how Chromebooks and Chrome boxes are now becoming a thing. Of course, it's made by Google. It's their own proprietary operating system that runs, well, it's basically Google Chrome, but with an operating system. Also, we're going to talk about Australia's Immigration Department publishing details of asylum seekers, according to ZDNet. Now, it may seem a little bit weird to you that I am staunchly pro-Android while being anti-Google Chrome. What sense does this make? It makes none at all. I just don't like Google Chrome. It's nothing personal. I just don't like it. Sorry. But Chrome boxes, or rather Chromebooks, are a success, and Google adds focus on Chrome boxes, according to TechCrunch. When you think of Chrome OS, chances are the first thing that comes to mind are Chromebooks. Yeah, true. Since 2012, though, Google and its hardware partners have been quietly selling its Chrome boxes, the desktop equivalents of the Chrome OS laptops. Now that Chromebooks seem to have found their place, with very solid sales according to the latest data, the company is starting to put the Chromebox concept back into the spotlight and positioning it as a platform that goes beyond the traditional desktop computing. At the Digital Signage Expo in Las Vegas today, for example, Google is highlighting how Chromeboxes can power, you guessed it, digital signage. Making this work is pretty straightforward and goes a bit beyond the traditional kiosk mode Google has long enabled on Chrome OS. Developers can set Chrome OS up to run any Chrome app the moment the device starts. This means a signage company could hook a Chromebox up to a screen or billboard on the side of the road, assuming billboards use standard graphics inputs, and run ads or power the menu screens in a fast food store. Want to make the ads interactive? Just use a touchscreen. Many of the signage companies currently use proprietary systems, and as the occasional blue screen of death clearly shows, even some still use old versions of Windows to run them. Which is odd. Why would you use Windows when, oh, whatever. But this was possible before, but it's only now that Google is actually focusing on the usage of the Chromebook. I've lost my head. All it takes to enable this mode is a few extra lines of code. The install, updates, new code, and any changes to the app can then be managed remotely from the Chromebook management console. Some schools that have deployed Chromebooks already use this feature for switching between the regular Chrome OS mode and apps for testing their students. Last week, Google has also unveiled its Chrome Box for meetings, which basically uses the same system but to run a video conferencing platform in the background. Until now, the only Chrome boxes available were Samsung's models starting at $329. The Chrome Box for meetings, however, is made by Dell, and both HP and Asus are about to launch their own versions soon. At CES, LG also unveiled a Chrome OS-based desktop, but this one is an all-in-one with a 21-inch display. The Chromebox hardware has now also moved beyond basic Celeron processors and offers Core i7 CPUs and relatively high-powered graphics, which enable developers to run complex apps right on the desktop. Well, that's all well and good, but will it be adopted? That's the big question. Will it be adopted by the mainstream or by the commercial industry? Well, it could. There's potential, but they have to make the jump, and that's kind of the problem. They have to make the jump from the proprietary things that they're used to using all the way to this this new fringe. Instead of using Windows XP or heaven help you Windows ME, Windows 2000, they have to make that jump into using a Chrome box. Could it happen? Well, yeah, I guess. The Chromebox hardware has now moved beyond basic Celeron processors and offers Core i7 CPUs and relatively high-powered graphics, which enable developers to run complex apps right on the desktop. With the help of native client, developers can even run games and apps that need high-end graphics on these devices. With Chromebox for meetings on the market and a round of fresh Chrome OS hardware about to hit stores, it makes sense for Google to start homing in on new use cases for this hardware. At just $180 for a basic Asus Chromebox, after all, the hardware is pretty affordable. But what will sell the system is likely the fact that they are easy to manage remotely and very unlikely to crash, and that it's pretty easy to find developers who can write the kind of web apps that will run on them. Google is clearly starting to position the Chromebox as a platform. I wouldn't be surprised, says the writer of the article, if the company decided to launch more niche products based on this platform in the future. There's no reason, for example, a Chromebox with the right interface couldn't make a good device for powering the big screen in your living room, for example. Could happen. Instead of a set-top box, well, a traditional set-top box, we would have a Chromebook box thing. Could happen. There's no reason for it not to. But, it's just a matter of the public taking on, I guess, or picking up on it. And when that happens, then we'll finally be seeing Chromebooks and boxes and other such appliances being used for different purposes. Or at least more commonly. I'm still interested, though, in the Raspberry Pi, that $35 computer. I wonder if that will see a resurgence now with rising interest in the Chromebox. Because it's the same thing, except different, basically. Same thing, only different. Raspberry Pi, of course, is that $35 computer that has a, well, not incredibly high-powered processor, but it's powerful enough to do basic things. It can run Quake, so that's good. It has a graphics chip and all that sort of thing. It's good. It's relatively okay. But will it take off as a commercial use machine? Maybe not. Maybe not so much as the Chromebox, but there's potential there for Raspberry Pi. Look into that if you're interested. Oh, and again, about Talks, that web thing, chat service that I'm going to start using. I'm going to post my credentials up there on the Ustream video description, so you can look me up on there. I'll put it in the in the YouTube video description as well. And you can email me about it, generationz1240@gmail.com. That's generationz1240@gmail.com. No underscores, no spaces, no capitalization or anything like that. Also on Twitter @generationz1240. I'll put my Talks credentials out there, so you can look me up on there and chat with me or what have you. So that's that. It's a chat service. You need to download it, but it's pretty simple. Just do a Google search for Talks. It'll come up. TUX. It'll come up. And also, Australia's Immigration Department publishes details of asylum seekers, according to ZDNet. A database containing the full names, nationalities, locations, arrival dates, and boat arrival information of nearly 10,000 asylum seekers has been accidentally published by the Australian Department of Immigration and Border Protection, The Guardian first reported. Oh boy. I mean, come on, people. The newspaper said that the database contained the details of every individual, including children, detained in a mainland or Christmas Island detention facility. A statement released by the Department of Immigration and Border Protection acknowledged that the data was open to authorized access. This information was never intended to be in the public domain, a spokesperson for the department said. The file has been removed and the department is investigating how this occurred to ensure that it does not happen again. The Office of the Australian Information Commissioner, or OAIC, said that it is aware of this data breach and that Australian Privacy Commissioner Timothy Pilgrim had spoken to the Immigration Department and been assured that the information is no longer publicly available. This is a serious incident, and I will be conducting an investigation into how it occurred, Pilgrim said in a statement. As part of this investigation, the department has undertaken to provide me with a detailed report into the incident. Further, the OAIC will be working with the department to make sure they are fully aware of their privacy obligations and to ensure that incidents of this nature will not be repeated. Yada yada, the basic diplomatic stuff. So, this is an odd thing because that's information about real people, individuals, that's gotten out. I wouldn't want my information to get out there like that. I mean, we're talking about arrival dates, where they live, where they're from, what their names are, all that stuff. That's not good at all. Whoa. That's not good at all. And these people are just immigrants. They move there legally, presumably, so there's no reason for this to happen. How did it happen? Well, that hasn't been released. We just don't know. They're conducting an investigation into how it occurred. The incident raises concerns of the inability of Australian government agencies to ensure that sensitive information remains secure. Last year, the Labour government refused to confirm reports that it had fallen afoul of Chinese hackers and had the blueprints of the Australian Security Intelligence Organization's new headquarters stolen. The ABC's Four Corners program reported that the hacks had netted documents that contained details of the headquarters floor plan, communications cabling layouts, server locations, and security systems. So this is like the Death Star plans getting out for the Empire. Is a good comparison, you know, because now the rebels have info about the vital systems of their main base of operations. So if they can just find that main vent, they can launch a proton torpedo into its core and blow up the Death Star or the ABC, what have you. At least from a technological standpoint. And it's this is very weird. This sort of thing hasn't happened to us, as far as I know. The blueprints for the Pentagon aren't out there, as far as I know. If they were, I'd love to have them. But it's weird. Why? How? When? Well, we know when, but why and how? Weird, man. That's bizarre. How could this happen? And why? Who? That's another question. Who? They're conducting an investigation, but if they cover their tracks well enough, it's not going to come to fruition. Of course, there's always the possibility that it's an inside job, which is usually the case. But why? Why would you rat out your own agency like that? It's not like it's some Snowden thing where it's human rights violations being exposed or anything like that. It's not at all. It's just what's happened. Oh, also the weather right now, it's actually pleasantly warm. It is presently 70.3 degrees Fahrenheit. It's t-shirt weather out there, up here in Hickson and the Chattanooga area. It's t-shirt weather, which is nice. I like t-shirt weather. And it's also 71 is a high, thunderstorms, a chance of thunderstorms, 40% chance of precipitation. I just don't see that happening, though. But you never know. Could happen. I doubt it, though. It did rain pretty heavily last night, so that may be where they're coming from, but last night isn't really today now, is it? No, it's not. So, chance of thunderstorms? If you say so, whatever, man. But that's what's going on right now with the weather. Mostly cloudy. Traffic, though. What's going on with the traffic? Well, it is presently all in the clear, except for over on 24 eastbound. For some reason, there's some blockages. Don't know what the deal with that is. Oh, actually, westbound, I should say. Huh. Lots of blockage on 24 west. Why? I can't get any details on that. Let's see. Let me try. Let's stop moving. Trying to get details on this blockage here. Nope, nothing. Strange. Oh, okay, here we go. It says here, hold on, let me read this. 24 East is actually closed. Why? Okay. Apparently there's some problems on 24 East that they haven't really fixed. What that issue is, it doesn't say, but there apparently is one. There's also construction and all that stuff. So, tune to your local, traffic radio station to figure out what's going on there. I'm not presently, I think it's 1450 AM is the traffic radio station to find out what's going on there. Because I can't get any info from the net, and it's not being very helpful. So what in the world is going on 24 East, or 24 West? It's actually both. There's blockages on either way. I hope that's old info or something, but weird. But it's, yeah, 70.2 degrees right now. Well, anyway, how the U.S. could block the Comcast-Time Warner cable merger, according to Ars Technica. Comcast's $45.2 billion acquisition of the Time Warner Cable Company is expected to be thoroughly scrutinized by the Department of Justice and the Federal Communications Commission. It could be blocked if the agencies decide the merger would significantly reduce competition and harm consumers. That's quite a decision that they would be making there. If Comcast wins approval, the merger might require consumer protection provisions that would make it harder for Comcast to wield its increased size in ways that make the TV and internet market less competitive. Comcast said it expects regulatory review to take 9 to 12 months. For now, let's take a look at what authority the DOJ and the FCC might use to block or alter the proposed acquisition. Telecom expert Harold Feld, Senior VP of Consumer Advocacy Group Public Knowledge, explained that the DOJ and FCC have authority here, but the processes they use are quite different. The DOJ does this under antitrust, Feld told ours, and they have to sue in federal court to block the transaction, and they have to have the burden of proof under a traditional antitrust analysis. They would have to show that there is a substantial likelihood that the transaction would reduce competition in some relevant market. The DOJ would have to prove its case by a preponderance of evidence. Is that very likely? No, not really. The FCC's authority stems from the fact that Time Warner Cable would have to transfer cable television relay services licenses and telephone service licenses to Comcast. And I guess they can refuse to do that. The FCC is somewhat different because the FCC actually is the adjudicator, Feld said. The FCC is, as a commission, must determine whether the transfer of the licenses serves the public interest. The burden is on the applicants to show that there are sufficient public interest benefits to offset any potential harms to the public interest. And the FCC is being kind of weird right now when it comes to common carriers and all that sort of thing. They're already pitted against Comcast and Time Warner Cable, so they're already a little bit prejudiced when it comes to this. The FCC, with the net neutrality by the way, the FCC could approve the acquisition outright or approve it with conditions. If Comcast agrees to the conditions, it's smooth sailing. If the FCC wants to challenge, it wouldn't immediately reject a merger. The FCC would declare that there are issues of material fact, questions we can't answer from the current state of the record on whether this serves public interest, Feld said. The FCC would refer the questions to an administrative law judge, or ALJ, who would hold a full evidentiary hearing complete with cross-examination of witnesses. So this is being treated like a criminal case somehow. If the FCC refers to an ALJ, that is generally considered to be the kiss of death for a merger because it takes several years to get through that process, Feld said. The ALJ hearing itself could take several months, and even after it's done, the merger would go back to the FCC for review. The decision could be appealed regardless of who wins, potentially making the whole process too lengthy for Comcast to bother with. Yeah, so if they win and the FCC appeals, they got to go through the whole thing again, and their merger is stalled even more. And that costs a lot of money to go to federal court, too. Don't forget that much. It does cost money to go to federal court, and that's something you don't want to bother with. You just really don't. The FCC went the ALJ route in 2002 for the proposed Dish-DirecTV merger, and in 2011 with the AT&T/T-Mobile. Both acquisitions were doomed. Yeah, if they try to buy them, they're gonna kill it. So I guess Dish would have a monopoly on the satellite TV market or something like that. So they didn't like that. I don't know. Now that we talked about the process, on what grounds could the U.S. authorities prevent Comcast from buying Time Warner Cable? Well, the first and perhaps most important question is how to define the market or markets that would be affected by that transaction. Comcast has placed its focus on the multi-channel video programming distribution market, saying that the acquisition of Time Warner Cable would bring Comcast from 22 million to 30 million subscribers, or less than 30% of the nationwide total. Comcast offered to divest itself of 3 million subscribers in a bid to get under 30% and perhaps appease regulators. Additionally, Comcast has pointed out that it does not compete against Time Warner in any individual cities or towns. That fact is illustrative of how little competition exists in the cable market, as the vendors have effectively divided up territories to a point where individual consumers have few choices. To Comcast antitrust lawyers, it's a positive. The merger won't reduce the number of cable choices that customers have. And that's really what they're worried about, is the number of choices that customers have? Well, if that's what they're worried about, then it's already sort of happened, right? I mean, think about it. Already there's not that much choice, because at least up north you have Time Warner and you have Comcast, and in most regions, like I know New York is mostly Time Warner, that's all you got. All you've got is Time Warner to choose from. That's a problem. Now, to Comcast antitrust lawyers, it's positive, and it's not really a problem. Comcast's market definition isn't the only one that will be proposed, though. Consumer advocacy group Free Press claimed that the merger would give Comcast control over more than half of the U.S. triple play market for video, voice, and internet service. Is that true? Maybe? In triple play, I don't like triple play anyway. It basically means that you get video like TV, voice like phone, and internet. And I don't like that because sometimes I don't want TV, right? Like, I don't want TV, personally. I have no use for it. And I might not want landline phones either. I have no use for that. But to them, I have no choice because I got to sign up for their triple play thing. And that's not something that the antitrust laws should be getting into. That's just the way it is, really. It's just how they've decided to do business, and I don't like it. But it's not up to me, is it? It's up to them. And even at less than 30% of residential households, Comcast would have improved negotiating power in a variety of markets, which it could conceivably use to harm competitors and its own customers. Comcast would also have more room to grow as an owner of Time Warner Cable. CableTV.com, which tracks availability of cable services, reported that Comcast's combined footprint with Time Warner Cable will be 214 million Americans, or about 2/3 of the U.S. population. But still, if they make themselves too big to fail, I mean, think about Bell, or AT&T rather. If they make themselves too big to fail, then they're going to fail. That's just how it is. And frankly, if they engage in poor business practices, then it's already too late for them. If they're treating their customers badly, then their customers are not going to be happy about it, and they're going to file complaints with the company. That's just how it works. So this whole antitrust thing, I think, is a little bit overblown. And frankly, I think the FCC is just trying to give themselves something to do. to try to stop this merger. Comcast's increased size would make it easier to demand payments in the peering market from internet bandwidth providers like Cogent or Level 3, instead of continuing to exchange traffic for free, as has been the tradition. Comcast could also use greater negotiating power to get higher payments from other phone providers for the ability to complete calls to Comcast customers. But on the other hand, what the alternative carriers could do is refuse service to Comcast, which would hurt Comcast in the long run. So cooperation kind of has to go on. But that's all that's going on with Comcast and Time Warner right now. Of course, as the situation develops, we'll be talking about it more and more on Generation Z, because this is very, very relevant to technology, because this could change the face of communications in America right now. But that's about all the time we've got for Generation Z. I think we covered quite a few cool things, like the weather. Woo! We also talked about augmented reality, which is probably one of the better emerging technologies, along with 3D printing. It's also my favorite, next to 3D printing. But at 1, don't forget to listen to Nuganomics.com with David Toulis, where he talks about local economy from his free market perspective. Always fun to listen to at 1 o'clock with David Toulis, Nuganomics.com, here on Copperhead 1240. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the good weather while you can. See ya. Hi there.
Hey, Wilson.
How's it going?
Well, fine.
Good.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you? I mean, I already asked that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Get that loop. So I guess Sav is on his way?
Yeah, he's on his way. But then he said, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm not sure what that means.